Hey everyone, it's Richard Metal Fan here, bringing you guys a brand new 2020 album review. And today we're going to be looking into the new album from the band Aversions Crown entitled Hell Will Come For Us All, which came out today through Nuclear Blast Records. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with Aversions Crown, they're sort of a deathcore, technical deathcore band hailing all the way from Brisbane in Australia, and these guys have been around since 2009. And I discovered Aversions Crown about almost 2 years ago when I first saw them play with the Whitechapel and Black Dahlia Murder back in June at the Masquerade and of 2018, and that was pretty much how I first discovered them. And I went and checked out all their stuff, and they've been putting out albums since their first album, which came out in 2011, called Servitude or something. I can't remember it. And these guys have had a bunch of different lineup changes. On that first album, they had believe Colin Jeffs on vocals and of course they had like the guitar work of like Michael Jeffrey, and then of course they also have probably one of the best drummers in metal or deathcore, probably Jaden Mason, and he does a great job on the drumming, and that's a pretty solid album. But then what I really liked was their second album, Tyrant, and that was a pretty good album. But I was like, after that album they got their second vocalist, which was Mark Poita, and they of course in 2017 they put out their album Xenocide, which I thought was a pretty good album. And that shitty thing is that was the only album that had Mark on vocals. But then here we are with the band's fourth full-length album, Hell Will Come For Us All, and this is the first album with their new vocalist Tyler Miller. And when I first heard, I forget what song it was. I think it was The Soil, or Born in the Gutter. I first heard that because usually when bands have like line changes, especially when they switch up vocalists, there's always the worry of like it won't sound the same, or it will work or won't work. And in this case, it does work. And like I said, this is the follow-up to their previous album, Xenocide. And I think this is a really good album. Like, I feel like, in my opinion, Aversions Crown is totally underrated. Like, I feel like these guys really deserve more. They're just so heavy. I don't know how Australia does it. I mean, I consider like Australia to be kind of like the Sweden of the Pacific, with like bands like Aversions Crown, Thy Art Is Murder, Parkway Drive, bands like that, like Neo Obliviscaris, like I just feel like Australia just has a really great scene, and just the production on this album is great. And like, I feel like Tyler Miller just really filling in those shoes, of course, of Mark and even Colin, like, and just like stepping it up with what they had, the two vocalists that came before him, and Tyler does a really great job on here. The guitar work is tight. Michael Jeffrey's guitar playing and Chris Cogan's guitar playing is just tight as fuck. Like, the guitar work is just sick, coming up with some straight up like technical riffing, and just the bass I kind of wish was a little bit audible here. And drumming wise, Jaden is a hell of a drummer. So yeah, without further ado, let's dive into this album track by track. Now, starting things off is The Soil, which starts the album off with sort of like some creepy sounding guitars and some really just distorted the drums, and then the vocals come in. This is the first time we hear from Tyler, and I honestly, when I first heard his vocals, that kind of reminds me a little bit of like Joe from Fit for an Autopsy, and even like CJ from Thy Art at some points. But then like 30 seconds in, like, it just, all hell just breaks loose with this song. It's heavy while also retaining a little bit of melodicness in the song itself, and the riffs are just very technical sounding. This is pretty much one of the really just showcases what the band can do. It was a great way to start off this album. Then we move on to Born in the Gutter, which has a little bit of a mini drum intro, and just hits you straight in the face at like 1,000 miles per hour. And I love how the chorus in the song has the heaviness and the melodicness to it, which just the two go hand in hand together, which is awesome. Then we go into Paradigm, another great song. I think it's a pretty good just as well. Con This System. Now, this song just has a very sick and just brutal opening, and the guitars and drums pretty much lay sort of like the foundation of the song, while the vocals sort of like carry the heaviness. And I just love the chorus, which also has a little bit of keys, which makes it very melancholic and has a little bit of an atmosphere to it. Then we move on to the title track of the album, Hell Will Come For Us All. Just another sick song. Scourge of Iron. Now this song just is riff central. Just the riffs on here sound very killer, and just the drumming on here is just so powerful. And the vocals are just very punishing, and just the chorus just destroys everything around you and just punches you just so badly. Hymn of Annihilation, which I feel like musically with the guitars, it has a little bit of a gent feel to it, with a little bit of ambience to it, and sort of like goes with sort of very just technical death metal, kind of like infused riffs and lightning fast drumming. Moving on to Sorrow Never Sleeps. Now this song just is filled with just some very melodies. It just makes it sound so dark, and the harmonies just make it evil, and it also has some really good synthesizers, which makes it sound pretty bleak, and it just works really just well together. And then the album closes with The Final Judgment, which is, I feel like it's just very just epic and cinematic, with sort of like some really good keyboard sections and some really just insane like guitar riffs and a little bit of spoken words. And there's like a little lengthy melancholy parts, and it's just a great way to close out this album. Now overall, Hell Will Come For Us All by Aversions Crown is another sick album. Like, I feel like they can also kind of like lumped in with like death metal. I mean, they have the deathcore stuff, but I just think they're just really ridiculous. So if I had to give this album a score, I'm probably gonna give Hell Will Come For Us All by Aversions Crown a 9 out of 10. So yep, that's my review of the new album, guys. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about the new album, and I'll see you all in the next video. And as always, just keep it metal.